Howdy there. So this is about using points and slopes to figure out linear functions. So your task today is to watch the video, and I really do want you to take notes on paper and number your problems for us, please. And you're going to submit a photo of your notes for credit today. And then don't forget that the activity that you completed in class down on the farm, the activity that you completed in class down on the farm is due, so please make sure that you finish that as well and submit it. This shouldn't be a very long video, so we expect you to finish both of those tasks. So we really want to think about a point and a slope, and they're going to be searching for a line. Well, you already know that y equals mx plus b, and you know that the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept, but sometimes you don't always have that information. Like if you're in a factory and you know that something grows at a certain rate, and we know that, today we produce such and such quality items, but we don't have all of the pieces all the time, so we're able to figure them out, and it's really important that you're able to do that. So I'm going to try and color code as best I can, and I want to think of this point as, we'll do the point stuff in blue and the slope stuff in red, just so that you kind of get an idea of what this is. So if we have the formula y equals mx plus b, well, we know a lot of information about this already. In fact, we know an x value and we know a y value, so I'm going to substitute those in. So instead of y equals mx plus b, it's going to be 0 equals mx plus b. It's really a multiplication, so m times x, but x is 3 plus b. And I'm actually going to go through this again, and I know that the slope is the m. And so if I know the slope is m, and m is negative 1/4, I'm literally going to replace m in the equation, the m value, with negative 1/4. So let's go ahead and do that. 0 equals negative 1/4 times 3 plus b. Well, if we look at this, we're going to have to remember a little bit of our multiplication facts with fractions, that 3 times 1/4 is really like a fourth of 3. So we got 0 equals negative 3/4 plus b. And to simplify this, we'd have to add 3/4 to both sides. So let's add 3/4 to both sides. So I see that 3/4 equals b. Now I know that dealing with fractions isn't too much fun, but the concept here stays the same no matter what. Now that we know the b, we have an m, so we have an m value. We now know the b value. We can go ahead and write an equation from this top guy. So y equals that m that we found before, the negative 1/4, x, and then we now have our b value. So plus 3/4. So once I know the slope and the y-intercept, I can write an equation for this. Now, I want to point out a really core idea that when we write an equation, it needs to have both an x and a y value. Don't forget to include those. Sometimes students forget the x and the y value, and it's not actually a linear equation unless it has both of them in there. So here's another one. We're going to do this again with just different numbers, and let's take a look. So I know that the m is the slope, and the x is the 4, and the y is the 8. So I'm going to plug them in all at the same time. So negative 8 equals, that didn't work, equals m negative 4/3 times x, which is 4, plus b. Well, again, with fraction, if a fraction multiplied by a whole number, the numerators add. So I got negative 8 equals negative 16/3 plus b. Now, I wish I had better numbers for you, but I don't. And so if this is, we have some number plus some other number, and we're looking for this b value. So in order, this is a negative number, we'd have to add to both sides. So add 16/3, add 16/3. And I know that's a really ugly number, so we're going to go ahead and add 16/3. We're going to add 16 thirds. And for convenience sake, my goal is not to give you fractions of the yin-yang, but for convenience sake, negative 8 plus 16 thirds is equal to b. And this is a really big number. Let's really think about this. Well, 8, we can simplify this, right? 8 is the same as 24 divided by 3. So negative 24 divided by 3 plus 16 divided by 3. We got to combine like terms or combine the numerators. So negative 24 plus 16 is negative 8 thirds equals b. And I know that that's kind of annoying, but it is a number. It's a funky number. We're going to just have to deal with it. So once I have my b value, I'm going to use green. Once I have my b value, I can take my equation of the line and substitute the m and the b. So y equals the m value, so negative 4 thirds, x, we got to have that x, and then plus b. But in this case, it's negative 8 thirds, so minus 8 thirds. In the next activity, I'm going to have you do the same thing, but there won't be fractions. So try this next problem out. Go ahead and give this one a try, and we'll talk about the solution in just a few moments. So please pause the video so that you can do this on your own, and then we'll check the answer together. All right, so just being really careful here, I tried to color code it as much as I can. We got our point x and y. So in x, I'm going to replace it with 2, and the y, I'm going to replace with the 5. And my m value is 2, so m gets replaced with 2, and we've solved for this b. Now, once we have the b and the m, we can substitute it back into the equation. So y equals 2x plus 1. Plus 1. And this is our equation for the line that goes through the point 2,5 and has a slope of 2. And if you don't believe me, you can go ahead and graph this and plot that point and check, does that equal that? Or you can use Desmos or some graphing utility. Well, sometimes we're not even fortunate enough to have 2 points. We're not even fortunate enough to have slope, but we could have 2 points. And so I want to remind us, how do we find slope from 2 points? Well, quite simple. Each of these points has an x value and a y value, an x value and a y value. And I'm going to substitute those into the equation. So I'm going to do this top one in red. And I'm just trying to color code. Actually, let's use a different color. Let's use yellow. Yellow for the first one and green for the second one. So in yellow, we've got 0 is our x value and 2 is our y value. And in green, 5 is our x value and 0 is our y value. And when I'm looking for slope, I think slope, the m value, is the change in y divided by the change in x. Well, if I look at this, the change in y is actually subtracting 2. So my y value is negative 2. And my change in x is plus 5. So my change in x is plus 5. Now we have a slope. We have our m. So we can substitute the m directly into the equation. We've got y equals negative 2/5 x plus b. X plus b. Well, I like the fact that the denominator is 5 and the x value here is 5. So what we'll do is we're going to take this x and y value and plug it in. You could do it for the other one, but it's going to be a lot more work. So let's see what happens. Well, the y value is 0 equals negative 2/5 x, the x value is 5, plus b. Well, 5 divided by 5 is nothing, so 0 equals negative 2 plus b. We'll solve for b. So 2 equals b. That's something that we're interested in because we can substitute it back up at the top to get y equals m. The m is negative 2/5 x plus b. X plus the b value, or 2. So this is our equation that passes through both of those points. We'll do one more, and you'll try one on your own. again, making an XY table to determine the slope, because we need the slope and it's easy to find once I have it in a table. So I think slope is the change in y over the change in x. So I go plus 6 is the change in y, and the change in x is plus 8. That's nice. And that's a fraction. We could simplify that fraction to be 3/4. I like that. So our m is 3/4, so y equals 3/4 of the x value plus b. Well, in this case, it's really nice. You could pick either one. I'm going to pick the second one because x is 4, and I see that when I substitute x being 4, 3/4 times 4 is going to clear it out just a little bit. So y is 6, so 6 equals 3/4 times x, so times 4, plus some b value, which we're solving for. The 4's cancel out, so we'd be left with 6 equals 3 plus b, and slowly you can see that b has to be 3. Now that we have that, we've got our slope and our y-intercept, and we'll plug it into the equation. So y equals 3/4 x plus 3. And we've got an equation. You'll try this out. Hopefully there are fewer fractions in the next problem, but I really want you to give this a shot so that you know how to do it on your own. So please be sure that you're making that XY table as you're finding the slope, and you'll see the answer in just a moment. So just a quick check, making sure that you get the slope of -1 here, and I'll magically make more appear in just a second. So even if you picked a different, even if you picked the other x value or the other point, you should still get a b value of 1. What I want to pay really careful attention to is that there's a double negative here. So -1 times -1 is actually +1. Just be really careful with that. It's an easy mistake point. And we'll finish it up. Now you might be looking at this and you're saying, well, what happened to the -1 for the m? And I just want to pay attention that there's an invisible 1 in front of x, and so all I need to say is that it's a negative x value. There's -1x here. The x isn't 1. There's just one of the x's, and it happens to be negative. All right, thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. We'll see you next time.